Well, I think that's what we're looking at, actually. This is why I've called this How Can We Save England? Because I'm presupposing
I do think
that
England
England's...
is in a survival situation now.
Yes, yeah. It's at a precarious place where the annihilation of the concept of England is definitely on the cards. Demographically, how we identify, culturally, I mean, economically as well, Jesus. Things, I genuinely think is a very precarious time. And so this brings us to the question of what can be done. So, I think there are a bunch of things. Now, obviously, I'm going to preface this with nothing stupid can be done. Nothing stupid. You know what I mean when I say this. Everyone knows what I mean. Nothing stupid. Nothing, as you put it a while ago, nothing that would disgrace us, right? This has to be unfortunately, a long march, as it were. We have to be able to find a voice and articulate it in a way that is compelling to our fellow Englishmen. And with this, we need to build a political constituency that can actually make and voice demands.
And a real strategy, not just some sort of scattergun.
Yes.
Every man for himself. That's just not going to work.
No. So the first thing I think we need to do is stop apologising and start calling ourselves English. Just use the word very, very frequently. Now, a lot of these strategies, actually, I will be cribbing from the critical race theorists because they did everything first. They've given us actually a very effective roadmap because this is what they did. They said, no, we identify as black and we're going to aggressively assert this and we don't care. We're not going to apologise and we will keep telling our stories. And this has built them their constituency to the point where we are essentially a minoritarian society now. We're dominated by the minorities because they made themselves conscious of these things. So the first thing I think we have to do is say, no, we are English. We don't care about your opinion on it. We are not going to apologise for it. And when they say, what is English? We can say, well, the English are the indigenous tribe of England. And that's true.
You've chosen those words very carefully there.
I have.
Indigenous tribe.
Yes. Because there are a few reasons for that. Now, under the UN definition of what an indigenous tribe is, the English fit this perfectly, actually. I actually didn't get it up for this. I should have got it up for this. But the English absolutely, and so did the Welsh and the Scottish and the Irish. They're all indigenous tribes of the British Isles. The French, the Germans are indigenous. These are the indigenous peoples of Europe, in fact. And there's no question of it. That you can't define them in any other way, because that's what they are. I think tribe is important because it's not an aggressive category that delineates in a way that excludes people we don't want to exclude and includes people we don't want to include. For example, I don't really want the Albanians to be considered an indigenous tribe of England, or the Germans or the French or the Polish, or, not that I hate any of these people or the Russians. I've got nothing against any of these people. It's just not factually true. These are not the constituency that I'm talking about. By the same measure, I don't want David Curtin or Calvin Robinson or any other people who are of mixed, my own father, of mixed race ancestry, but partially English, to not be considered English, because we are English. We are people who care about this country. And so it's not about the colour of a person's skin. It's about the lineal heritage that they have and the thing they choose to support.
So you could have somebody like the Gurkhas.
Yes.
Who racially, ethnically, are just certainly not English. But they will fight tooth and nail to preserve England.
Yes.
Or somebody like Yvette Cooper, who couldn't be whiter, is trying to undermine and destroy it with every breath in her body.
Yeah. So we know who's on our side and is defending English interests. Because, people, as we've seen from American whites, you can have an outgroup preference and you can undermine native interests all day long. That's what our government does every single day. So we can identify that there's an objective interest for the English that is not simply anything that an English person wants. Because as you say, like Emily Thornberry, Yvette Cooper, David Cameron, all incredibly English people, but they're acting against the interests of the English. So it's possible for an ethnic group to undermine its own interests. And this is something the critical race theorists were saying about blacks all the time. They've been making this point for years. There is an objective interest, and we can identify it, and we can speak in support of it. And honestly, I think this is unconsciously what Brexit was. Because Brexit was a very English phenomenon, really.
I think when we talk about what is to be done, I do honestly think one of the things is just the mindset.
Yes.
And allowing ourselves to be constantly undermined. Organisations like Hope Not Hate or Care for Calais or the Institute of Race Relations, the Runnymede Trust, it goes on and on and on.
Yep.
They're so heavily ingrained and so powerful in all sorts of different ways. Dr. Nima Parvini put it very well when he talks about the boomer truth regime. That whole generations have been indoctrinated with this sort of the anti-fascist paradigm. Whatever you do, don't stick up for yourself.
Anything that's not a step towards communism is fascism.
Right, yeah. Moving the leftists standing over anything else, moving the Overton window to the point where you can't say anything, you can't do anything apart from just passively accept your destruction. That's absolutely got to end, or at least the normies, the millions of normies in this country need to understand that that's what's happening.
Yes, we need to make that very clear. And conversely, I've decided that I don't like the concept of ideology at all. Because ideologies, as far as I can see, I believe that all ideas are rooted in a time and a place. And so when you abstract these into a formula and try and apply them elsewhere, they don't really work. And also, it's kind of ahistorical to do so. And so to call someone a fascist, like fascism itself, is deeply bound up with the unification of Italy into a nation. It's deeply bound up with this. As Mazzini, I think the guy's name was, that the fascists took their inspiration from, who was instrumental in the unification of Italy. And I'm just sat here as an Englishman thinking, well, what's this got to do with me?
Yeah.
Nothing. The ridiculous, like totalitarianism is an Italian idea. I'm an Englishman. I want the opposite of this.
They're just not using the words correctly.
Exactly.
Like Nazi. What National Socialist German Workers' Party.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's literally.
What are you talking about?
German identitarianism.
What are you even talking about?
Exactly. It's German socialism. I don't want German socialism either. Call me crazy.
Calling someone from Liverpool that wants their child to be safe on the streets, calling them a Nazi. It's like, what's
it's like a
German
cargo
workers'
cult.
social? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Exactly. It's the wrong era, wrong country, wrong motivation.
Nonsense, really.
It's a nonsense. And so, so I'm not interested in like crafting an ideology. I'm interested in just speaking from a sort of sensible, practical position. And in fact, you might describe this as like the English political way, because that's kind of what we've always done, actually. And so I'm not interested in playing these sort of ideological games. I'm interested in speaking to my fellow Englishmen as an Englishman and saying, look, if we look at the condition of England, it's looking quite dire. As the Cockney in the video earlier said, if you think this is good for England, I'm a Dutchman. Good point. This is not good for England. We can see that it's not good for England.
I do think we're in some sort of survival situation. However, I also don't think it's anywhere near to over.
No.
It's not over. I loathe accelerationists and doomers. Both of those. People say, it needs to get much, much worse until the normies wake up. Well, they're never going to wake up. Okay, they seem bound to conformity, to deliberately not see what's in front of their own eyes. So that's no good.
Yeah.
I hate it on Twitter or just in real life or whatever when you see people say, it's all done for, it's all finished and we deserve to be destroyed and all that sort of thing. Nonsense. Absolute disgusting nonsense. No, I hate that. That's why someone like Peter Hitchens, where we've mentioned before, where you should just move away if you're young and you don't know what to do.
Really got your back up, that, didn't it?
Well, it's not just. I don't think it's just sort of intellectually wrong, the wrong idea, the wrong take. I'm annoyed with him.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting. I think that's poison. I think that's pure poison. Because then in the next breath he'll talk about our heritage again.
Yeah.
About some lovely Norman keep or something.
Rarely talks about Alfred though, does he?
It's honestly sickening to me.
I know.
And it's like in in life, it's not a computer game. You can't go back to the last save.
Yeah.
Okay, you play the hand you're dealt, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is the hand our generation has been dealt. This is the world we live in. You can't change any of that. So, what do? Don't give up. Don't panic. The worst thing you can do ever, in almost every situation, if you panic, if you throw your toys out of the pram, throw your hands up and give up,
Yeah.
that's childish nonsense. Stop doing that. Don't do that.
And that's when it's over.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if I'm always brought back to the example of Alfred. It was 7 English kingdoms, and every single one of them, apart from Wessex, was conquered. And 100 years later, it was the unification of England under the Anglo-Saxon monarch, Aethelstan. Like, it's not over.
When civilizations lose the will to carry on, that's when they're done. Yeah. And if they don't lose that, nothing's over. It's quite as simple as that.
Yeah.
Alan Clark, K. Clark, the art historian, not the modern politician, said, we can destroy ourselves by cynicism and disillusion just as effectively as by bombs. Yeah. Well, that's true. If you just give up, if you just throw your hands up, roll over and die, well, yeah, that's what you're going to get.
Not having it.
And there's no need to do that. It's barely begun. It's barely begun.
I mean,
the normies, millions of normies have not even begun to wake up yet.
Well, now so speaking about that, so that's the next thing I wanted to go on to, which is what the critical race theorists would call consciousness raising. Now, okay, if that's what it takes, and that's what works, and we know that works because that's brought us to the position we're in now, where we're a left-wing dominated culture, okay, then that's what we need to do. We need to start raising our consciousness as English people that England is being dissolved through mass immigration, our culture is being not just subverted by people like Adil Ray, but actively attacked by those people who are ideologically hostile to it, and our cultural heritage is being deplatformed, essentially, erased. And that's something we need to make normal people aware of. So we need to do our part to the people the individuals in our daily lives to make them aware of these things. We need to use the word English repeatedly. English, English, English. This is what this is about. This is not about Britain. This is not about, I mean, don't run the Welsh and the Scottish. I mean, they've got their own strong ethnic identity anyway. So, like, I'm not actually worried about their identity. I bet, I didn't check actually on the census, but I bet that there's barely a drop of people calling themselves Welsh and Scottish. I bet it's just the English, So we need to make sure that people understand what they are and why they are that thing and why that thing is good. What the critical race theorists would call consciousness raising, we need to engage in it. This is why in my Twitter bio, I have Englishman. That's what I am.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.